You see this little beast right here? 200,000 of these motherfuckers have left Nintendo warehouses and have sold. Went into the hands mainly of fucking scalpers, because those motherfuckers are all about that shit. But anybody who is fortunate enough to go and pick up one of these for the actual retail price of $60 US, then you already know that you're getting yourself 30 Nintendo games, classics across the entire spectrum, except for many of the licensed games, such as Batman or something awesome like Battletoads, because we're not going to see that shit happen anytime soon, as nice as it would be. But regardless, 200,000 of these have actually sold. That's a big deal because it's a fucking plug-and-play system. And anybody can sit there and try to go and argue and debate with me about that, but let's just go and break it down at its very basic core. It is a plug-and-play system that is enveloped and created strictly around nostalgia. Nintendo's earliest offerings all shoved into one package deal, along with other things from the likes of like Capcom and Tecmo and Konami and a bunch of other shit. You know, when Konami was actually a good company. Ha ha ha! Zing! Hashtag fuck Konami! But this selling very well is actually a big deal because this just means to Nintendo and plenty of other companies out there that there is room on the market for this kind of device. And this could mean a whole lot more things in the future. We could see another rendition of the NES Classic, version 2.0, nothing to do with Matt Hardy, because nowadays he's all about broken brilliance. Delete! 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 Fantastic, by the way. Fucking fantastic. But a 2.0 version including even more games. A wealth more titles that maybe goes from 30 up to 60 potentially, or 30 entirely different games. Maybe ones from the Famicom era that we didn't receive over here, but are something that we could still enjoy because there isn't a shit ton of Japanese text that keeps that little language barrier from us enjoying the game. It happens. But this could mean that we're getting a Super Nintendo version, a Nintendo 64 version, a Game Boy version. I would be all for a handheld version of this that actually had a bunch of Game Boy games on it, because as much as I love the Game Boy, plenty of those games for the Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, lots of them get forgotten. Completely forgotten, and it's kind of tragic. And the Super Nintendo, one of my all-time favorite systems ever. I'm talking like top 5 worthy systems, and the library on it is fucking impressive. The wealth of role-playing games on there, it's arguably one of the best systems for that genre in general, but it was an industry-defining system. I mean, it did so much badass shit on there. I would love to see that. 30 of those games. I mean, fuck, if it could include the likes of something such as Castlevania Dracula X, and then, I don't know, like Harvest Moon and plenty of other games out there that are selling for hundreds of dollars, I would be fucking giddy. Because I don't want to go and buy those games at those prices. I pretty much want Harvest Moon, though, because I've been wanting Harvest Moon for years. I remember passing on it back when it was like $60. I was just like, Jesus fucking Christ, now it's like through the roof. Anyway, just a retro bubble and shit. I already talked about that. Go watch that video if you haven't. But this could mean that other companies out there will want to do their own versions of plug-and-play systems, or just continue to allow other companies to do it, and they just license out their games to them. But imagine if Capcom decided to go and do that. Capcom has some of the best titles ever in gaming. Fucking ever. I would love for this shit to happen. If Konami decided to go and do it, which they did go and trademark the whole TurboGrafx thing, so we could potentially, maybe, possibly see a TurboGrafx thing, though that could just be them trying to get under Kanye West's skin, so we really don't fucking know about that. And the easiest way to go and do that is just to tell him he's not actually as fucking awesome as he is, and then he just starts flipping the fuck out, and that's an argument for a different day. So, still, back on point. Sega, we already know, is doing the plug-and-play game system, which I had already talked about that, but it allows for physical cartridges. Does this mean that we could maybe possibly see a Super Nintendo Classic that allows for you to plug in actual physical cartridges? If Nintendo, a first-party console manufacturer, did this with the original boards, everything, and actually put out physical carts like Sega has Tectoy doing, holy fuck, would that be badass. I would buy the shit out of that. If they did another version of the NES Classic and allowed for physical carts to go in there, and I'm talking they re-released them in the cardboard box with the colored manual, all that shit, little dust cover, people would buy that shit in droves. I'm talking, you technically could get people reinvested in the retro gaming market in a big way by re-releasing these games, because it's not a niche thing. It's really not. Okay, this is not a small little quarter of people that are into this. I assure you that this is a massive, monumental, insane amount of people that want this shit. Sony could look at this and think to themselves, we should re-release the PlayStation 1. Because there's no fucking backwards compatibility on the PS4. Why, I have no clue, but the PlayStation 4 Pro, I'm telling you, if you told everybody, yeah, that'll play PlayStation 1 or 2 or 3 or all three of them, and it comes at a premium price, people would have bought that shit so much better and been a lot happier about the investment, but it's 4K! And you're pretty much just going to begin The Last of Us out of it. But think about this. If Sony re-released the PlayStation 1, and they put out tons of titles on it that were kind of the make-or-break games for it, Final Fantasy VII, Metal Gear Solid, Tekken 3, Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon. This list could go on for fucking hours. Best system ever. I love the PS1. But I'd be all over that shit. I already have all those games over there. Let me make that perfectly fucking clear. I have every single one of those games over there. My original fucking copies from back in the day are sitting right the fuck over there. I'd rebuy this shit.
Well, that's kind of asinine for you to do, Alpha.
If you already have them, I don't fucking care! I love this shit enough that I'd want to go and buy and continue to support it. It could be ridiculous, and I could just give the shit away if I wanted to. It's just something that I love the idea of. If I could ever get another Sega Saturn, that'd be awesome. This system is the shit, baby! Look at it! Fucking Sega Saturn! But a Nintendo 64 Classic? Think of that. Though a lot of the best games on it did come from Rare. And we know that we're not going to be seeing like another version of GoldenEye anytime soon, because they'd have to go to MGM Studios and get the likeness of all the people from that, so those actors would have to be paid. They'd have to get the 007 license, and it would be a fucking shit show of a circus trying to go and get all that stuff just so that they could go and re-release everything properly. And guess what? They'd have to go to Rare, who's through Microsoft, so it just... that shit would be fucked up. But if they just focus strictly on all the Nintendo offerings, they wouldn't do too bad for themselves, truth be told, because there's a lot of badass Nintendo branded and developed games on Nintendo 64. Hell, it's one of the reasons why you want to own the system. Hell, that's the reason why you want to own most Nintendo systems. But 200,000 and still going? Keep in mind, people are still trying to get their hands on this shit. And most stores are like, oh, we're getting, this many. Like, are you fucking kidding me? You're getting a whopping 3, and one motherfucker's gonna roll in with like 2 of his kids. And then buy all 3. I'm like, oh, well, they do count as individual people. Here, honey, you pay. Oh, it's got a chip. Hold on, this is gonna take an hour. That shit's going to happen. So then they're gonna walk out and you're gonna see this shit on fucking Craigslist, eBay, OfferUp, wherever the fuck they decide to do it. Facebook trading groups, all sorts of other things, because they want to go and scalp this shit as quickly as humanly possible, because Nintendo isn't manufacturing and making enough, and it sucks because it's the holiday season. The holiday season, people are paying through the nose. So that's just a very common theme. But once they go and make more, what if this shit hit 500,000? Just imagine now, 500,000 units of this floating around. That's kind of fucking nuts to think about. The idea that a plug-and-play system is doing that well, I mean, I love this concept and idea. I just wanted to play physical carts at some point. And I want to see a Super Nintendo version so fucking bad. And I want to see other companies even consider doing some shit like this. I mean, Microsoft has been on board with all the backwards compatibility, but re-releases of old games, I'm always for that. I really am. Truthfully, I think that's nice because it allows newer generations to experience things from yesteryear without having just like to go and download a ROM of it or get it off of an eShop or some shit like that, but to have it physically in hand the way that it was back in the day. And while that's not a big deal to some people, for others like me, it kind of is, because that's the genuine article, the authentic experience. So, who knows? Only time will tell, but this success could mean greater things for a lot of people out there, and I can't wait to see what the fuck happens. Anyway, this is AlphaOmegaSin, as always, nerds, nerdettes, and gamers game the fuck on!